Well, good morning, everyone. It is coffee chat for it's already November 10th, 2025. It's wild times. The year's flying by. Before we dive into some of the hot topics from over the weekend, does anyone have anything top of mind they want to talk about?
Yes, happy 250th birthday, Marines.
Oh,
Girl.
right. It's the Marine Corps birthday. What are some of the customs and traditions that the Marines do to celebrate?
Um, like the men get really gay with each other, but it's not gay if it's on the Marine Corps birthday.
Got it. It's like a free pass.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's just like the customs and traditions are we do a cake cutting ceremony, and the oldest Marine takes the first bite and then passes the piece of cake to the youngest Marine in the location. So if it's the party or the bar or whatever, we read the commandant's birthday message. Yeah, so and then we usually have a table for the what's that called? Crap.
Crayons.
The table for
She said crayons.
the table for the ones who can't be there.
Oh,
Oh, the MIAPOW table.
Yeah. Yeah. So we set up like, an empty plate and then we read the whole ceremony about that. Like, so the reason why, this is set this way and we have a glass for this and stuff like that. And so we have a table, like a table setting for them.
oh wow. So do
Yeah.
other branches of the military celebrate like their
Not
birthdays?
anywhere near like the Marines do
Oh,
because we
come
were
on. The
no,
Navy's
nowhere near
rivals.
like the Marines do. We were born in a bar and the Army and Navy, I think their biggest celebration, I'll be honest, is the Army Navy football game every year. But they don't do birthdays like Marines do. Like
No,
nobody.
we get the Navy gets the holiday ball. The Marine
Yeah.
Corps gets the Marine Corps ball. And I mean there is a Navy ball, but like it's not as grand. Like
They
having
all
been to
celebrate
both.
their birthdays. They all
Yeah.
do like Army ball, Navy ball, stuff like that, but they don't do it the Marines are ridiculous. So yeah, I celebrated by watching and I'll shut up about it after this, but like I always knew that I was in that Discovery Channel Making Marines documentary, but
Right.
then yesterday I actually watched it while I was doing my nails. I'd never watched it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a three-part
Yeah.
docu-series and I'd never actually watched it. So I posted the parts in my stories where I know like you can for sure see me and stuff. And then
Oh,
I'm gonna
cool.
make a reel about it today. But yeah.
Yeah, because
Wow.
Jonathan and I were looking at it and he wanted to see the parts he just wanted to see the parts you were in though, right? He didn't want to watch the whole thing. So I'll show him your reel and
I
your
highly
story.
recommend if anyone wants to understand me as a person better that they watch the entire thing
Yeah.
because you can really understand why I am the way I am, why I'm a perfectionist, why I don't like accept no for an answer or it's impossible. So yeah, it was really interesting watching it back and being like, oh, so it totally like indoctrinated me and this is like why I am the way I am now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all. Happy birthday,
Yeah.
Marie.
I'll have to watch it. My son just has a short attention span, so he
No,
just wanted
there's
to
no
see.
way he would be able to right now, but it
I
was
just wanted
really
the
cool.
world to understand where I was coming from. But yeah, I think it's important to watch the whole thing. So, all right, awesome. Well, I mean, does anyone else have any hot topics before we dive into the really hot topics?
I kind of did. So after we went to the Iowa Realtors Convention, I was kind of obsessed with Google AI Studio and the nuances that it offers and just familiarizing myself. So I hadn't been on the good old Chat GPT for like a minute. And so my husband and I have been entrusted with a 15-year-old kiddo. And so like life has changed for us, and she needs some education stuff. And so I had her download the good old Chat GPT. And I go on mine and it has like expanded by leaps and bounds in the last month. Um, so the AI feature, like you can have a conversation with Chat GPT by pushing the button and it talks back and is much more interfaced and user friendly than ever before. So I just kind of wanted to bring that up because I thought that was really kind of cool.
Yeah. That's yeah, it's changing very rapidly.
If
But
you ever want AI training, first of all, we've done some training the past couple of months here, but
Mhm.
also Lindsay has a guy that she's like totally in love with all of his AI training. She swears by it. And he really dumbs it down and makes it, explain like I'm five, right? So if you ever are interested in that or feel like overwhelmed by it, get in touch with Lindsay Holland, our Texas broker, and I'm sure she'll hook you up with whatever the latest training is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to point out, I watched a Tom Ferry show, and he had one videos about how to use like AI search for real estate, and it's very, very educational. And he have all the tools that different he uses different AI tool for his business.
Mhm.
Yeah, I can send over that link. I think it's a very good video.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm working on our internal AI certification stuff, so I can't wait to announce that later when it's actually ready. So excited. All right, so I want to pivot. I want to talk about 50-year mortgages. So over the weekend, it became like abundantly clear that President Trump and some of the other people, I don't know their names, but people that would be decision makers in this really want to bring back or offer 50-year mortgages. And so there's a lot of mixed feelings about it. I know, Josh, you had one. I have a different take than Josh. So would just love to talk about, the pros and the cons of this.
I
And
think it goes hand in hand with like them removing the threshold of the 620 credit score for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The fact of the matter is that the average age of a first-time home buyer is 40 years old, and that is fucking ridiculous. That's unacceptable. And so they have to do something. The prices of real estate went through the roof, and then also the interest rates have slowly been creeping up. They're not through the roof compared to, what they've been in the 80s or whatever, but housing affordability for our generation is non-existent. So they have to do something. Now,
yeah,
do I think that it's a good personal decision? Not necessarily, but I applaud them for doing, what they can to stretch out a payment or do what they need to do.
yeah,
That's my opinion.
I'll put in my 2 cents. I look at it this way. We can't to change the problems that we have, the problems that we have in real estate for first-time home buyers and for lending didn't happen overnight. It's going to take another 20 years to fix it. So we have to have an immediate solution. So this is an immediate solution for a 21-year-old to go buy a house instead of spending the same amount of money renting. And I find it kind of funny that some people would, it's not for every scenario. It's obviously
right.
for certain scenarios. So like, let's put that out there. And then the other half of it is, we're quick to tell people to date the rate, marry the house, date the rate. Well, that's what this is. It's just another way to get people into home ownership and then refinance. Like I said, I would rather you own a house than be renting it mind you, if the scenario presents itself. There are times, and I have clients right now that are elderly, that can't mow their lawn, they're on a fixed income. And there are some benefits to renting. You don't have to worry about taxes. You don't have to worry about mowing the lawn. You don't have to take and deal, with insurance. I mean, if you start thinking about, there is some cost with home ownership. And so there's no one size fits all. And I always tell people when you come into having an opinion of something, it's like this helps a certain bracket of individuals. It is the only, solution at this time that's immediate. There needs to be a long-term solution and they're working at it. So I think for the people that this is going to help, it's a great solution. And remember, guys, we always preach about refinancing. So, it's not a lifelong, obviously I don't believe it's a lifelong loan, but for some people it gets them out of that renter's pool, which is an amazing opportunity. So kudos to finding a solution to the problem that we could immediately take advantage of.
That doesn't cost the taxpayers a shitload of money.
Right.
So-
And I know that, there's some things that need to change, like the Frank Dodd Act actually prohibits stuff like that. So they're gonna have to, fight that first. But I agree. To me, this 50-year loan option is just another tool in the toolbox. So it's just as quote unquote potentially damaging as the 10-1 ARM that I got when I bought my condo. For those of you that don't know what that is, I got a 10-year loan with an adjustable rate mortgage. So after the first 10 years, my rate's gonna change. But the goal was to either pay off my condo in 10 years or refinance it. So, do I think that people are just going to get this loan and stay in the house for 50 years? No. If that's truly your goal, if you're going to get into a house and you want this to be the home you die in, then don't get a 50-year mortgage, right? It's really meant for the shorter you plan on holding the house, the longer the mortgage might make sense. And again, there's no one size fits all, so you have to talk to your team, your real estate agent that you trust, your your accountant, your CPA. But I think it's interesting how so many people are freaking out and saying like, oh, well, people won't have equity in their home, but there's more than one way to have equity in your house, and it's not just paying towards the principal. So that just doesn't make any sense to me. But Josh, you had a sort of a different take, at least on my post initially. What are your thoughts?
So I think first of all, it's needed because we have a backlog. And I think ultimately it's a short-term fix for a much bigger problem of inventory. But I think the problem is inventory takes years to fix, and this is something that can be implemented right away. I have two concerns with it. Um, First one being, if a lot of people take advantage of this, our inventory levels, and I'm speaking nationwide here, are pretty low. And so I think very quickly, if a lot of people start taking advantage of this and flooding the buyer pool, we could be back in a situation we were in 4 years ago where we're seeing multiple offers, stuff gets a little bit bonkers. It could spin everything back up again. Um, so I think that's a concern, which I'll leave it up to you to actually say if it's a concern or not, because ultimately, who really knows? Um, the other thing I think it's going to do is it's going to push our life cycles and lifetime value of clients out quite a bit because people will be gaining equity a little bit slower. And as Holly said, there are other ways to gain equity other than just paying to principal. But because people will be gaining it slower, I think they're actually going to wait maybe to list their house again because they're not going to have as much. And so even right now, they say 7 to 10 years is about how long someone's in a home. And I think potentially that this could bump that out a little bit. And I think as real estate agents, we need to understand that and change our long-term nurture process to kind of reflect that, because I think that could push out how long we need to nurture past clients because they're not going to list as soon. But I also think it will really be interesting to see what the terms look like on these loans. And the other big part of it is, will people actually take advantage of them? I think there's going to be a lot of people like, I don't want to do that, you know? And so I think it's needed. And I think at this point, we need something to come in and kind of disrupt and get things moving again. Because right now we're in a market of stagnation, and that's like one of the worst places we could be. I mean, statistically speaking, the money's not moving, and that's not a good place to be in. And so I think if this gets the ball rolling and starts the market kind of slowly get the momentum back, it will be a good thing for the market. And I think it's really another thing is make sure you're partnering with good lenders who are giving your clients great advice on this, because it's not for everybody, but it does fit for some people.
Why, it's interesting because they introduced the 30-year mortgage a while back, and I tried to get a couple of clients in with lenders to take advantage of it to lower their house payment, and lenders were just not doing it. They were like, no, we're not doing 30. And I'm like, what the hell? This is like a thing. This isn't something Sandy Burnett made up. Like 30-year mortgages have been around for a while. Not that I'd recommend it, but people had a certain price point they wanted to be at, but wanted their payment to be at a certain level. And I do disagree with your very first point, Josh. I agree with all the rest of them. I disagree that I think it'll be good if buyers come into the market, but I think it could again level itself off. Boomers still need to get out of their houses and into, retirement communities or whatever. So there's still houses to sell, there's still houses to build. And with our current administration, I bet they're going to start to put a kibosh on foreigners buying up our real estate as well. If it stops us from being able to own homes at a reasonable price.
Yeah. I think also, and I just thought of this as Josh was talking and talking about how people are holding, onto homes longer. I think the opposite might be true. We have a whole segment of the population that homeowners who bought when interest rates were at incredibly all-time low. So it's preventing them from wanting to make a move because all of a sudden, if they make a lateral or even a downward move in terms of home price, then their payments are going to go up. But if they can opt into a 50-year mortgage, if their payments can stay relatively the same, we might see more homes and more inventory actually open up because those buyers are looking to make a move then. I think a lot of people are staying in their homes because it's just not affordable to make a move.
So with that, like how do they make lenders offer or accept 50-year mortgages? That's a pretty big commitment, on the back end of it. Um, you know, betting that they're going to be good for the 50 years of it, right?
Yeah, I'm over here thinking age discrimination. Like, where's that line gonna be?
Yeah.
Well, so I did some research on other countries that offer these longer loans. And what it looks like is that it's really prevalent in countries where a home is a family home and it's going to be passed down through generations. So you're willing. So again, this is a different segment, right? We have the people that are using this 50-year loan as leverage, right? They're leveraging that to do something. But then you've got the people that are buying this 50-year mortgage, even if they're 60 or 70, because the intent is to will that house and that loan, that mortgage onto the next generation. So this could be something that it'd be great for maybe farmers. I don't know. It'll be interesting, but I don't know the answer to your question.
It will be interesting to see if those loans are assumable as well.
So,
Oh, yeah.
do you guys have a large Mennonite community around you guys in Iowa?
I know.
So it's pretty common. They
Amish
have.
over here.
Oh, okay. A lot of the Mennonite community utilizes 100-year loans for their farms, and that's basically what happens. Is it's just like accepted that that's going to get passed on to their kids. And so, I do think because multi-generational is becoming more of a thing, it definitely would be interesting. So,
And then Nate, I feel like you had a different perspective and you're an important part of the company, even though you're not licensed. So I would love
No,
to hear
that's what I love about Nate's
Yeah,
opinions and stuff, because he's totally coming from a consumer's standpoint
exactly.
and just from his own experience in buying and stuff. So that's why I love hearing from Nate.
Yeah.
What I worry about is my kids and doing something because it's to save money now. Um, I don't like hearing how long these loans are for because they don't teach you stuff in school, like basic high school stuff that about money, about loans, about interest rates and stuff like that. So when I was doing my research, I just saw like by the time you pay this off, you're paying $1 million more on a house that's $500,000. So if it is multi-generational and it does take that long to pay off, you're paying a lot more in the long run. So that's what I worry about. And I did a little bit of research on paying off houses and doing it a different way instead of putting more money down each month you invest it and you have it save up over, so let's say over a 30-year loan, you invest that money. And so instead of overpaying for your monthly payments, you invest it, and over time that money grows for you. And then by the time you pay off this loan, that investment alone is going to be worth $1 million. So you pay off your house, and then you have all this extra money that you just invested. So I worry about the younger generations, the first time home buyers that are getting into something maybe that they didn't do their research on and screwing themselves in the long run. But that's what I worry about, is just my kids and their future and what it's going to look like when they buy a house in the next 10 years.
Can I pivot off of that?
Yeah, for sure.
I love that that is your perspective. And I want to spin it to, especially, kind of for our community, for folks watching, right? This is why it's so important to have a knowledgeable, educated realtor to help you and to know which lenders to partner with, to know exactly how much hand holding you need to have on this journey to becoming a homeowner. Um, especially like our first time homebuyers. That's why having that guidance from a licensed professional is really, really beneficial, because I pride myself on my first time homebuyer experience. It's kind of my niche, right? And I ask them, like, okay, what is going to be important to you might not be something that I think to mention. So ask all your questions. There's no such thing, like, and it does become on the licensed professional then to be the educator.
Yeah, and to work collaboratively, with the team. So Sandy, yeah.
Two things. One, on Twitch, Brian says, I'd also want to feel confident the house was built to last that long. Good point. The other thing is, Nate, you bring up a really good point, and that reminded me of some really good advice I got a long time ago, which was to try to make one extra house payment a year. So I just looked up, I said, if somebody were to make one extra house payment a year and make sure it's applied to the principal on a 50-year mortgage, that mortgage would be paid off in 25 to 27 years. That's how quickly it would affect that mortgage. So when you think about it, if your payments are, like, I guess, diluted that low to kind of help you make it work, if you mentally account for at least making one extra payment a year, maybe more, if you want to pay it off sooner. But when I'm borrowing money ever, I always choose usually the longest term, unless there's like, 0% interest if you choose this and pay it off, right? I'll usually choose the longest term if the interest rate isn't affected, and then just pay it off as soon as I can, because I don't want to be strapped and then miss a payment. Lindsay.
So I'm over here thinking of leverage. Man, if there, it's a buyer's market, right? And I have my house and my mortgage, but I'm like, well, hey, could I use that 50-year note to go get a great deal on an investment property down the street that's being sold for pennies on the dollar? And then that investment property is bringing money back in that's higher, where I can pay it off, flip it. And then, I don't really know the terms of a lot of these notes, but the other thing is just leveraging the lending tool to be able to get into something or flip something. So I'm thinking about the investor side of this. Like, you know, it's a buyer's market right now. Everybody really wishes they were in a position to be a buyer, because I've seen 10 things in the past week where I'm like, that's a killer deal. If I had the lending tool to buy that thing, I could flip it and make some money. And so I think also, I know we were looking at this, a lot of people just look at this literally, like they're like 50 years. And I'm like, hey, it's about keeping the payments down. So If I can buy a B&B, fix it up, get it moving really well, and have a good cap rate, and I can turn around and flip it. And, so I'm over here thinking like, that's the part that I think people miss when they look at this as a black and white situation. And I also think that's where people get into the weeds with it. Um, you know, these loans are really not meant to be kept for as long as they're allowed. I really do think people just need to look at the bigger picture and use it as a tool, because I would love, a college kid doesn't have a problem paying, $1,800 a month rent. If you can get him into a home for $1,400 a month paying the mortgage, he piles in two more of his buddies in there. I mean, he's cooking with bacon grease. I mean, that's the way we got to start looking at these things, is what's the value and the benefit, and how can we leverage the tool?
I've helped at least two post-college guys who thought they could only rent, love it. Who thought they were only able to rent. And I'm like, no, man, you're like gonna live with roommates. Let's hook you up, because he had enough just barely to buy. And now his roommates have been paying for like about 7 years now his mortgage, making his mortgage payment and stuff. So Holly?
Yeah, well, and what Lindsay said, I mean, that's exactly what I was talking about over the weekend, which infuriated some people, it seemed like, on TikTok, because I said, it it seems like a lot of people, especially consumers or people that hate real estate agents, are looking at it as black and white. Most people don't get a 30 or 50-year mortgage and literally stay in the house for 30 to 50 years, right? That's just not how it is in practicality. So you have to use it and consider it as leverage. So like Lindsay said, if you use this 50-year loan as leverage to get a place and you can fix it up, you can input some money into it and then either turn around and sell it or turn around and refinance it. And then that's when you get your 15, 20-year mortgage, right? So there's just, I, for one, am excited to hear about all these new tools that we might have in our toolbox. And am interested to see how it all shakes out. I think that what the government should really be doing is looking at our homeowners insurance problems. I think the homeowners insurance problems are going to cause us more issues in the long run than any of these loan terms.
Amen.
Amen, Holly.
And also I was going to say, or rent it out. Somebody else is paying that mortgage while you go and pick up the next one. Josh?
I think another part of this is very interesting too, is from an attention standpoint. I think this news really broke on like Friday, but the amount of energy and the amount of emotion that hit social media this weekend over this topic, I think it really shows us as real estate professionals that this is a pain point for people. And more importantly, I think it shows that like we're not going anywhere, because let's face it, there's this much emotion behind it, and these people need our guidance, regardless of what side they fall on. They need good guidance, and that's why I think this is actually, kind of a good thing, because it shows that we're still needed, and there's still a lot of energy behind the housing market and people's struggle with it. And so I like what Lindsay said about leverage. That's how I think about it. How can I leverage this news to get in front of more people? And I was kind of shocked at how big this topic like really grew as fast as it did, because I made a video on it, and it was funny because I was just looking at the agent side of it, had nothing to do with the consumer side, and my comments blew up with a bunch of consumers talking about it and everything. And I was like, and then I had people arguing in there, which I'm like, okay, whatever. But it really goes to show there's a lot of energy behind this. And I think we can leverage that to get in front of more people.
Absolutely. All right. Any final thoughts before I close this out? So we are not going to have our Tuesday training tomorrow. We're taking Veterans Day off. I mean, I'll be here if you need anything, but technically we're going to not have training tomorrow, Veterans Day. But we will be back on Wednesday. And Lindsay, you're doing Wednesday, right?
Yes, I'm super excited. I love this time of the year, holiday season, because we really get to focus on 2026 and really, hey, it's fourth quarter. We need to be thinking about next year. So one of my favorite fun and I think really important little events I love to do is vision boards. We talk about affirmations. We talk about goal setting and goal setting in writing, where you can visually see it. And it's something you can repeat over and over again. So we're going to have a really cool and a virtual really excited, virtual vision board class. And I have a Canva template that you can actually take, and instead of the old school cutting magazines, take and pull graphics off of the internet and online and actually plug them into this vision board template, and you can print it off and then stick these photos on the vision board. So I know that was kind of a biggest complaint for a lot of people, like, oh, the magazines we have in the office don't really have the things I like to do or the goals I want to set. Well, now there's no excuses. We have an electronic template for that, and it will be shared with all, so you can take and drop in your visions and really set goals for 2026.
I'm so excited. And with AI, you can even create like myself on a cruise ship with all the agents around me for the sea cruise I want to do, right? So I'm excited.
I swear to God, Holly's AI looks cross-eyed
Oh,
every time.
stop.
I hate looking at it. I
Great.
can always
You're
tell
so
it's not
mean.
you because it's
She's
cross-eyed.
so mean to me, guys.
She is
We're
mean
gonna
to
have
you.
shirts one day that's like Team Holly, Team Sandy. All right. All right. Well, with that, we will call it adieu. Bid you adieu. But anyways, when in doubt, reach out, message us if you need us. We are here for you. We all started this morning with a blank slate at 0. So go out and talk to a buyer, a seller, or an agent today. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
So bye.
Bye.